So in this video, we are going to be learning about relational trauma. Closeness itself can activate instinctive defenses because the nervous system learned that relationships were not always safe. In this video, we'll look at how what we learned from our caretakers when we were young shaped our expectations of connection, safety, and closeness. These early patterns often continue into adult relationships, not by choice, but through learned nervous system responses. As you listen, notice patterns with curiosity rather than criticism. So let's go to our book. And I'm sharing what we learned in our last video, that the urge to get close will turn on the attachment system, and the urge to get close turns on the urge to defend. And when these go on at the same time, when we want to move forward towards people, then we have to stay away. This makes it difficult to connect and remain connected with others. So, question: when you were young, what did you learn from your caretakers about being close? Relational trauma most often develops when our earliest attachments are unsafe, unpredictable, confusing, creepy, or cold. So caretaking styles exist on a spectrum. Some are more harsh and intense than others. Sometimes caretaking styles blend together with more than one happening at once. The combination and intensity of caretaking styles, combined with a child's nature and temperament, will result in more or less relational trauma. It is interesting that some children who have the exact same parents have different responses because their temperaments are different, and that's just their instinctive defenses. Sometimes some kids will be mouthy and combative, while other kids will be people pleasing and silent. I actually thought that the children who were boisterous, you could kind of work with them more. It was the silent ones who everybody thought was, oh, they're adjusted. No, they weren't adjusted. They're just inside of themselves and trying to keep safe. So let's look at what type of caretaker you may have had, or combination. So caretakers who are cold, critical, derisive, they're dismissive, they're hostile and controlling, or they're intrusive. They're always coming into your room, never knocking. They interfere. You can't even have a conversation with one of your friends via text without them interfering, or they're often in conflict with you. They have to be right. They're punishing. Perhaps you had a conflict with a parent, and then once you went back to repair, they would still not talk to you. They're rejecting, they just don't want anything to do with you, or they're violent. What about caretakers who are, so think about that. Take a moment, think about if you had any caretakers like that. So they're helicopter caretakers. They're anxiously controlling. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing now? Where are you going? Always intrusive in your business, on your phone, checking, searching your stuff, emotionally enmeshed. Let's talk a moment about enmeshment and codependency. I love this definition that Chris Reese gave of codependency. And here it goes. I'm not okay if you're not okay. That's not okay. I'm okay if you're not okay. That's okay. So being emotionally enmeshed means that I'm not okay if you're not okay. And then I'm feeling your feelings, and then we're bouncing off of each other. That's not good. and healthy. Inappropriately disclosing, more like a friend than a parent. When a parent tells a 12-year-old about their sexcapades, it's not cool. Don't do that. Even when you're older, you shouldn't be telling your kids, your adult kids, about all your stuff. It still should be appropriate. Internally stressed caretakers, they're always stressed and worried about money or relationships or what people think about them. They're overly involved in your life. They're overprotective. You can't even go outside on your balcony with or your porch without your mom wanting to be there. And you're like 18. What about caretakers that are absent? They're just not there. This is where that chronic loneliness comes in, that loneliness that's in your bones. When they're absent, they're just not there in the house. You're always taking care of yourself. You're making your own bed. You're making your own food. You're on the couch alone watching TV again. They're addictive. They're addicted to people. They're addicted to places, scrolling, going places, busyness. Badge of honor in our culture. You got to be productive, otherwise you're not valuable. Or they're very self-centered. It's all about me. You need to be my support. What do you mean you're not listening? They're unreliable. They'll say, "Oh yeah, I'll be there at your open house," and then they don't show. Or I'll pick you up after school, and then you're waiting for hours. Your caretaker is unable or unwilling to keep their promises. I'll pick you up at 5 o'clock for our weekend, and then they don't show. Or you can go to soccer, and then soccer practice, I'll make sure you go and you show up once, but then they're too busy or high or drunk to show up for the next to take you to the next one. What about caretakers who are intermittently non-responsive? That's very inconsistent. Sometimes they're responsive, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they'll be there, sometimes they won't. You just never know what you're walking into. They're internally preoccupied. They're just thinking about what the other person thought, what am I going to do next? Who am I going to see next? Role reversing, dependent on the child for structure and or protection. That happens. When the family falls apart. I know of a family that the 18-year-old older sister died in a drunk driving accident, and the parents were in the middle of a divorce, and then the mom couldn't cope. So then the daughter, the 15-year-old daughter, was taking care of everything. And nobody remembered that, hello, she was grieving the loss of her sister as well. So role reversing when the children are actually the caretakers of the parent. Parents are scared and you're scared in scary ways. Parents can be really big. They can be abrupt. They can be harsh, and that's really scary for some kids. Some kids are just like, screw you, I'm out. Um, Suddenly and unpredictably zoned out. Sometimes they're attuned, sometimes they're not. You just never know what you're walking into. They're unpredictably strange or withdrawn. I think the word unpredictable is the word of the day. Okay. So, as we grow, relational trauma, let's go back to that for a moment. I want you to take a moment, pause the video, look through these, maybe take a highlighter and highlight the ones or write down the type of caretaker you had. Okay, let's move on. Okay, relational trauma. As we grow, we'll do one more slide after this. Relational trauma causes many of our most painful relational problems and patterns. These are the traumas that most often plague our adult relationships and our daily lives. So, attachment trauma, going close, but then they reject or they do whatever. Then we have our behaviors. And then we get into our adult relationships. When our drive to attach to others becomes too closely wired with our drive to stay safe, painful relational patterns can emerge as we enter into adulthood. Okay. So, if you're a child or a person who had longing and attachment cry, I need you, please come get me. But your parent was rigid and controlling. And if you don't heal those attachment wounds, you may end up in this type of a relationship. Or what about the person who's rageful and just always fighting and blah, 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 blah. And then the other person's just absolutely terrified and paralyzed because this is what their parent did and this is how what they did. They froze. Or what about the parent that's fight and judgmental and what's wrong with you and you should do it better, and then the passive person becomes submissive and ashamed. I'm just a bad person, and then they submit to whatever the judgmental person is doing. Or what about the needy person? I just need you. I need you. And then the guy's like, oh my God, no, I can't. That's just too much. That's too much. Because my mom, maybe she was that needy because her parents they were divorced and the mom relied on the kiddo too much. And the kiddo is like overwhelmed. That's just too much. So then we get into that relational pattern. And what about two angry people, just like robust? The parents are just always fighting and bickering. And then it just gets bigger and bigger. This is all relational trauma. I want you to take a moment and just look at that. See which patterns may fit you or fit your parents or people you may know. So, in conclusion, relational trauma teaches the nervous system how to protect itself in connection, even when closeness is desired. These patterns are learned, adaptive, and understandable in the context of early caregiving experiences. In the next video, we'll explore how people often cope by turning away from trauma through protective strategies that develop over time.